Hello, it's Andy Graham with the Ask Andy Show. I'm in Orland, Indiana, at the Fawn River Fish Hatchery. It's a nice cloudy day, so I don't get blinded by the sun. I'm sitting here looking at the Fawn River. This is kind of a place where we used to go camping when I was a kid. Okay, Bob D., one of my regular readers for a long time, and always like to hear from him. Bob the Squid. Hey Andy, do you think any of the angry anti-American people living abroad ever find peace and happiness there? Or are they forever angry, just living in a different place? You mentioned once in a video that our problems travel with us. That is a piece of wisdom that could help so many people making better decisions. I actually got that from self-help groups. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and they call it a geographical cure. People will say, I drink because my wife, I drink because of the location, I drink because of my job, and they move to another location. It's called a geographical cure, and they're going to do it. But the problem is they take the problem with them. They take themselves, okay? So, you mentioned that our problems travel with us. The problem we have with, normally most people's problems are themselves. They're basically pointing their fingers, and we always say there's three fingers pointing back. When you're pointing at somebody else, you do it. Anybody that's constantly ranting and raving about everything's horrible, you know, they defined their life. They got what they deserve. If whatever comes out of our mouth defines who we are. I started almost 25 years ago saying life is good, because I got so tired of saying life, people were around me saying life sucks, and I go, this is crazy. We have to tell ourselves that life is good, and life is good for me. But there's people that leave the USA. This is wanker move out. I mean, this is just a wanker thing. To leave the whole USA because you're angry at the USA is they could possibly be in the worst place in the United States. They could be in the ghetto in the middle of New York City, and all these crazy things, and then they had one bad experience, and so they blame the whole country for the problems. Obviously anybody that's angry at a country is, it's really hard to be just masking. I remember saying a couple years ago there's an epidemic of idiocy in America, and I think there is. There's an epidemic of idiocy where they are consuming everything. They're buying everything and anything they can. There's an epidemic of food where they got to eat everything. There's an epidemic there's a pandemic on the world in a way. But there's things. But that doesn't mean I don't like the United States. It's just one particular aspect I don't like. Do I like to travel the United States? Not really, because it's just not, it's not paradise. Paradise is a place where anything and everything's cheap. I like to live in paradise. I like to live in a place where the cost of living is, I can get a room for $5 to $10 a day. It's so easy that it's cheap. Now, obviously, if I was making $1 million a year, if I had $1 million to spend a year, any country on the planet would be paradise, right? So it's a relative term. If you have a $6,000 a month budget, a lot of countries can be paradise to you because you're not really going to care about the money. Now, the essential question is, do you think any of the angry anti-American people living abroad ever find peace and happiness there? I would say no. People, you change your pants, people don't change. And if they're unhappy in America, they're not going to. They're obviously, after about 5 or 10 years outside the United States, unless they're going and hanging around with groups of people that are angry at America, they're going to forget to think. Like I probably left the United States in some ways because I was frustrated with women, American women. But the last 16 years of my life, there's been plenty of women and lots of girls around me, and life has been good. And I really, I don't have that problem anymore. So that was a situational change for me that did. If you want to be angry, when people are generalizing about a country, I really think they're stupid as they're just dumb fucks. If you want to be specific about a problem in the country, that I can understand. But if anybody in this world right now, as we stand, has the ability to change their stars, if there's one specific problem, you can geographically move and cure that problem. If you're living in a place that's too expensive, you can move to a cheaper place. If you're living with your wife, you can leave her and go someplace else. If your job is horrible, you can quit your job and go get another job. All these moanings and groanings is just people wanting to be a victim and wanting to cry. And I'm sad at the United States that we're not as harsh as we used to be, and we don't just say grow up. I see it in my own family that nobody wants to say anything bad about when somebody does something bad. Like we're all supposed to have sympathy and understanding. I do believe that sympathy is the devil's only friend. Okay, is the devil's best friend, sympathy, because it enables them to do it. So let's break this down, Bob. There are specific things that you can do, like, you know, I'm living in a town of 400 people and there's really no girls. I can move to another town where there's more women, so I could actually get married and things like that. So a geographical cure would work. If I'm angry at the USA in general, moving to another country is not going to solve the problem, because they really are not clear on what they're doing. Now, I'm going to make a video real soon of this girl from Vilcabamba that went on a rant. And she went on 20 different things she was angry at the United States. This is mentally ill, okay? Like I remember dating girls in the United States, and they would list out 10 different things they didn't like their ex-husband. And, you know, I said, you know, you're searching for a list. And I said, I'm sure I qualify on one of those lists, and I really don't want to date you. Because anybody that could list out, when they're actually have a list of problems with, like you hear people list out the problems with the Democratic Party or list out the problems with the Republican Party. That is not healthy. Why are you searching for the problems unless you're searching for the solutions? If they can list out the solutions that go with every one of those problems, then I'm happy. But if all they're doing is we say they're either in the solution, or you're part of the solution problem, or you're part of the solution. Are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? The bottom line here is look for happy people that don't rant and rave, and if they start listing out 4 or 5 problems with something, you probably would be best to find another friend. If you find yourself listing out 5 or 10 problems on a certain situation, it is time to change. And if there's one thing I'm positive in this world we live in, we can change our stars. We can do whatever we want to do. Does that mean we're going to get rich? It doesn't. Riches has nothing to do with happiness. Time does. Time to appreciate the world we live in. That's what makes us happy. So sometimes just saying no to everything and quitting everything is that people think that if they do more, they'll be happier. Actually, I believe in doing less. I believe that the people that do the absolute minimum in a day are the happiest people. The people that do the most things in a day are usually the least content. But these angry Americans, basically, I have no desire to live around of any community in the United States outside, whether it's Vilcabamba or Ecuador or Panama. The idea of moving to a community completely surrounded by Americans is, I would rather live in the United States where they're happy, okay? I am not going to move abroad and live in one of these communities. It is hell on wheels. I mean, this is the worst thing I could ever think of doing. I will never return to Vilcabamba, Ecuador. It is the last place. But I do know that it is the best place for some people. There are people that are so afraid they have to be in their own culture abroad. And, you know, misery loves company, so what am I to say? If they want to hang around together, that's up to them, right? I think that people find people like themselves. Dysfunctional people find dysfunctional people. That's for sure. And dysfunctional people marry dysfunctional people. But healthy people will find healthy people. So at the end of the day, when you got pointing at somebody, you got 3 fingers pointed. So all you got to do, Bob, to be happy is do it. And I think it was just a general question. This wasn't you, Bob, but this was just a good question. everybody can solve their problems, but I remember sitting one time with a bunch of really negative young people, and I moved over to this other table to talk to these older people, and they said, we were wondering when you're going to give up on those losers. Give up on the losers. That's my decision. Give up on the losers and be a winner and hang around with winners. It's not that difficult.
We can